And the worst part of it is there should be a cholera outbreak or a health hazard. And the budget is in Accra. I don't think we can develop our country if we have to do that. My candid advice or recommendation is that emphasis should move away from ministries, departments, and agencies, and it should go to the district and the region. I think it is time we start putting our budget together under the regional minister and asking him or her to come and defend his budget in parliament, because he has a constituency. The sector minister doesn't have a constituency. Remember, Ghana is one person's constituency. That's the president. After the president, the next person who has a constituency is the regional minister. And below him is another constituency, which is the district. They have geographical area that they are responsible for. So why would you not give their resources to them? Mr. Chairman, I also submit that effective fiscal decentralization can put a check on the corruption, because it brings about a better transparency, because the budget or the resources will be broken into smaller pieces. So we know the total resource envelope, which is for a particular district or region. For instance, assuming that 5 million is allocated to a district, do you think somebody can take the whole 5 million and we will not know that this year no money came, because this is all that government gave us? And you'll be naive enough to take everything. At least you take something, but not everything. So I've been comparing it to this, and I've been drawing this analogy, that if we should go to the sea and we line up hundreds of tankers to draw water from it, and after they have left and you came, you may not even know that they've taken any water from the place. Is that not it? But then if you sip from that glass, you will see a reduction in the quantum of the water. So the smaller it is, the more transparent it becomes. Because all the money for the district is 10 million. Can you steal 10 million? Or can you steal 12 million out of 10? It's not possible. And again, I even argue that centralization facilitates illicit financial flows out of our country. Because all the money is in Accra, in the pocket of the big boys. You know, when the small boys in the regions and districts, every stealing is bad though, but if they steal money, which they cannot account for, they hide to the cities and hide it. So the money is still within the economy. When the big boys steal money, they go abroad. That's a leakage. Because they can fly tonight. They have offshore accounts. My brothers in the regions and districts, many don't even have passport before talking about visa. But those of us here, I'm sure most of us have visa in our passports. So you can fly tonight. When you steal money, I'm not saying that people in the village should start stealing, but I'm trying to say decentralized corruption is better than centralized corruption. So if we can have a look at this decentralization, I think it will be very good. I also want to beg your permission and move on to the second pillar that Honorable Kwadwo Baah stood for. That is, public service is an honor, and you should reciprocate it with excellence service. Please allow me to quickly move into this and say that it's also a very dear topic to me. The question, Mr. Chairman, I usually ask is, who is a public servant? I humbly submit that I understand the word public, and I also understand the word servant. But when you put the two together, I get confused. I don't know whether a public servant is the one served by the public or the one who serves the public. But if you look at Ghana, I think public servant is the one served by the public. Mr. Chairman, I hope you agree with me. Because if it's really someone who serves the public, then why is it that it's so difficult for you to enter his office? You're going to see your servant. And when you're going, your heart is beating. So what kind of servant is this? So definitely the meaning of public servant in Ghana is the one served by the public, not the one who serves the public. And unfortunately, Some of my colleague public servants see their appointment as time to loot public funds. They join what Kwesi Pratt terms the looting brigade. And the accounts have it, Obia Didine Jumaho, meaning everyone benefits from his work. Is that not it? But in Ghana, we are eating the work itself. We are not benefiting from our work. They are chopping down the tree. They don't benefit from the fruits. No. And I think it is high time we have a second look at it. It doesn't matter which public servant we are talking about. I don't know how many of you here are public servants. And how many of you can tell me the time you reported for work today? Go to public offices at 8 o'clock. But let me be honest and tell you that at least for the 1 year and 9 months that I've been in office, once I'm in Accra, you will find me in the office latest 7:15. I'll be in the office. Between 6:30 and 7:15, I'll by all means be in the office. 9:30, you are looking for your staff and they are not there. You call and say, "Sir, any traffic pa?" And I ask them, do I look like I sleep here? Didn't I also come from the house? And people don't think that this is corruption. It is one of the widespread corruption. And that gentleman or lady who comes to work at 10 o'clock, by 3 o'clock, he is gone or she's gone. And then they have the guts to call other people corrupt. They forget that they are also corrupt because they are paid for 8 hours and they deliver maybe 4, 5, or 6. That's also a form of corruption. And if you aggregate it, it's huge. We have to look at it. Mr. Chairman, I've heard this mantra over and over that the private sector is the engine of growth, which I would not like to dispute at all. But I want to submit that no matter how good an engine is or new an engine is, it cannot function well if the oil is dirty. Is that not it? So the public sector is the engine. Sorry, the private sector is the engine, but public sector is the fuel. That powers the engine. And if our oil is dirty, no wonder the country is not moving at the speed at which we are supposed to move. What business can you start in Ghana without the public sector? Or what can you do? If you want to do business by importing, public sector will be there. If you want to start up your house or accommodation, you need permits all over from the public sector. So we need a public sector which is up and doing. And I think it is time we look again at the rules. There should be consequences for non-performance. And there should be consequences for indiscipline in the public sector. We don't have to look far. Some of us were privileged working with the World Bank. I visited Rwanda years ago, and it was looking like, I don't want to mention any town, somebody will think I've not respected this village, so let me leave it there. But if you go to Rwanda today, unless you close your eyes, you can't help than to admire them. You say, wow, things are orderly, neat, clean. And they, about 20 years ago, were coming out of a genocide, which had broken down almost everything. And they have been able to do this. Mr. Chairman, what impressed me about them is not the fact that government is on the forefront of doing this. Because government is doing it, has affected the whole society. If you go to even individual homes, you see that they are clean. That's how public policy affects the behavior of people. Immediately government is disciplined, you must be disciplined. Because assuming we have a police today who will not take bribe, no matter who you are going to face the law. And everything in government is moving. You can't help them to also behave. I've many times been telling my colleagues who are outside the country, I don't think you are more disciplined than us. It is the system which is making you disciplined. True or false? And I have a friend of mine I use always for example. He picked me from my house, we went to Kotoka and we flew to London. And the sister came to meet us and he took the car and was driving again. So I asked him, Nana, what has changed? And he said, why? He said, the way you were driving yesterday, If you were driving today like that, you will have killed about 10 people. Then he said, oh, yeah, the system will not allow you. So it's the matter of system. So we should emphasize system instead of people. But remember, it's not going to be easy. And I want to plead with my colleague public servants that I think our job is to serve the people. And we should not use our appointments for our personal economic recovery programs. It is interesting that immediately you are appointed into office, including myself, you get calls. When is the party? I say, but I've not done anything yet. Maybe I may be a square peg in that round hole. I've not even been to assume office. And say, you want to start celebrating what? So we should, but in fact, if the celebration is that you have even gotten an opportunity to go and serve, I can understand. But the celebration is that it is our time to chop. And I think that is not very helpful for our country. I would like to submit here and now that when appointing people into public offices, we should get those who can do the work. Else, we are never going to achieve the development that we are all waiting for. And the Ghana Beyond Aid mantra will remain a mere slogan. We must get the people who can do the work. And I always tell my colleagues that there's no way you can win a football match if you are fielding volleyball players. You can't use volleyball players to go and play football. When the ball goes up, instead of using their head, they use their hand, and there'll be penalty. And vice versa. If you want to win a volleyball match, you don't use footballers. But that is what happens in Ghana. Once he's a player, he can play anything at all. Mr. Chairman, some have given up on our country, but some of us are full of hope. Looking at our history and learning from other sources' stories, I submit that if only we are serious with getting the right man or woman for the job and also committed to fighting corruption with all the seriousness that it deserves, we shall be there sooner than later. I have a few recommendations going forward, Mr. Chairman. The first one, obviously, is discipline. I think discipline must be revived in the public service. There seems to be no consequences for violating of rules or being unproductive. Too many people do very little in the public service. I must say that there are very, very hard-working public servants, and I salute them. But for one hard-working public servant that you find, there are several others who are just occupying space. And I think it will be better for us if they would like to go home. The second issue I submit that we must have to look at quickly is the role of internal auditors in providing assurance to management that controls and systems are working. From my point of view, internal audit is the eye and the ear of management, and hence they must have to work together closely. Management and internal auditors, they must work closely to ensure that resources are being protected and the institution is delivering on its mandate. If that is done, the work of the external auditor becomes lighter. And the Public Financial Management Act establishes a linkage between internal audit and external audit, that each quarterly report that they produce should come to the external auditor. So if the internal auditor is effective and he sees leakages in the system and he wants to stop it, but he can't even stop it, the external auditor, being myself, I will see it. And you know, I'll arrive there with my certificate of disallowance. And if you pay, I say charge. So that's how we can promptly protect the public purse. I think we need to revise the law on internal audit in the public sector, so to make all the staff who are doing internal audit a bit independent from the principal spending officers. With due apology, they are the biggest culprits anyway. The infractions they commit more than, in fact, the higher you go, the more you sin in the public sector. So they commit the greater part of the infractions. So they should be insulated from them and put under the agency. If that is done, it is my considered opinion that they will have an improved condition of service or schemes of service, and of course, their remunerations will also be taken care of. But that is not the most important thing. The most important part of it is that there will be professional development, and they can be made to follow international standards in the course of the internal auditing. And if they do their work professionally, the external auditor can now rely on the internal auditor. So the burden on us will not be as heavy as it is today. Today we do a lot of work on the ground because, in fact, most of the internal audit units, we can't trust them. And Mr. Chairman, let me reveal something to you. Since I took office as the Auditor General, several internal auditors have come and they want to cross over to join audit service. You may think it's because of salary. When I ask them, that is not the reason. They say they are suffering professional abuse because you write a report and you give it to the chief director, he calls you and says, are you part of us? Oh, you're not part of us. You mean you are here and you are writing this? Well, there is a vacancy in Boku. If you want to go, then we can send you there because the gentleman there wants to come to Accra anyway. Then you say, okay, chief, I'm coming. At times, some of them even mark what you should take out of the report. So I'll be encouraging them that when they say take them out, please send me the original, a blank copy. And if you like, even remove your name from it, just let me know which ministry and what are the transactions. I'll send my team there to come and review the transaction, and we take it up from there. Because it's a collective responsibility. Mr. Chairman, I also want to submit that there is the need for us to resource the anti-corruption agencies and allow them to play their roles without interference, or I've heard, is it intervention? I've heard it's intervention instead of interference. Okay, so without intervention or interference. And I would like to say that I am very grateful, Mr. Chairman, to His Excellency the President for establishing the Office of the Special Prosecutor, who is ready to work with me, and our collaboration, I believe, can bring about the deterrence that we require in the public sector. But I want to submit that the Special Prosecutor is not sitting well at all. There is no way he can be effective where he is seated. I want to invite all of you to visit him. I won't tell you why. Go and visit him, and you see whether you can be effective, given that you have one deputy, one secretary, and no investigator, no prosecutor, nothing. I don't think one man can do that. So my submission is that if we want to do something, let's do it well. And I believe if that office is well resourced, it will help Ghana to go forward again. Mr. Chairman, I also want to submit that the practice of bringing back former public servants to their old positions or bringing former chief executives as board members leaves a lot to be desired. Because clearly there will be conflicts. Since I came to office, I've recruited more than 200 people last year and this year. And a whole lot of people will owe me allegiance. If you bring me back years later as the board member or board chairman, I can easily undermine the incumbent who is there. So we may have to have a second look at this. And some of the board members, immediately they are appointed, they think it is their second coming of Christ. So you immediately arrive, we won't do this, we don't allow this, we don't like this. Even when you draw their attention to law, you find board members thinking that they can override laws. It's a bit disturbing. That not even ordinary laws, at times we are talking about the supreme law of Ghana, the Constitution, and you hear members, some of them are even learned. They say, and so what? We are the board, we are in charge. I would like to offer some few points here. I want to say that yes, public service of Ghana, from my point of view, is governed by laws, and therefore the universal principles of corporate governance cannot override the laws of Ghana. I hear some people talking about being champions of corporate governance. And somebody was even saying the governor of Bank of Ghana should be appointed by the board of Bank of Ghana. Auditor General should be appointed by the board. And so when you are talking about corporate governance, remember it didn't start from Ghana. It's a borrowed concept to Ghana. Go back to those countries and find out whether there is a board, even for those institutions. Auditor Generals don't even have boards. Ghana is one of the worst examples, even in Africa. Sierra Leone, they borrowed our law, and when they sent it to Sierra Leone, they made the board an advisory board to the Auditor General. If you go to Kenya, they have a board. It's an advisory board to the Auditor General. If you go to many countries, they don't have it. Go to the US, go to Britain and find out. So when we are talking about corporate governance, let's not assume that we manufactured it or we invented it. It's something we have borrowed, and when you borrow something or when you copy something, my friends, paste is special. Mr. Chairman, I want to also submit here again that when the curtain falls, Ghanaians should learn to leave the stage. It seems when the curtain falls, the Ghanaian think it's time to go and prepare and come back, which is another problem for the public service. Our constitution says that when you turn 60, go home. It's as simple as that. Immediately you reach 60 years, go home. And when I'm 60 years, I've been telling my colleagues that I won't ask for even 1 minute. Because I think when I'm 60 years, I must go for someone to also come. People are over 60 years, and of course, yes, the Constitution mandates the president to give 2 years, 2 years, and what? 1. That is 5 years in addition to the 60. Some are over 70 and they are still around. And when I say they should go home, they are fighting me. Is it me? Change the law if you think the retiring age should be 80. The disturbing part of it is that we have our graduates on the street. They don't have job to do. And we think we must remain in the office. At times you see some public servants and you wonder how many times they will be 60 years. You wonder whether this is their third time or their second time they are going to be 60 years. They falsify birth certificates so to remain young. It's only when they die that you know they are at true age. The man retires at 60. He dies the next year and is 82. That is what is happening in our country. That is not as disturbing as the fact that 2 things which disturb me, Mr. Chairman. 1, they block the opportunity for the young ones to also get some work to do. It disturbs me a lot. A second portion of it is that most of these guys are on good pension. Some of them, their pension is better than even the workers' pension, especially those who get Cap 30 and those type of schemes. So they get that pension and they get monthly salary and they are weak. So they come to office, productivity is about 2 hours a day, and that's the end of it. I don't think this is very good. I agree with those who think we should increase the pension age, but until we have issued it, we have increased or changed the law, I will continue disturbing those who are above age. We are doing a payroll audit, and at the end of the payroll audit, you will see my report on overage people. And I've promised them that I will activate Article 1A7, Clause 7A against them. I will disallow their existence on the payroll. And the Constitution says when I disallow, you have to go to High Court and win against me before you come back. I'm going to do that. If you don't like it, beat me. Mr. Chairman, I heard this one and help us to resist oppressors' rule. I am calling on my colleague professionals in the public sector that we should stand up and defend the right, always, irrespective of the forces working against us or the nature of the inducements that come our way. At times, we want to blame the politicians for manipulating the professionals, but at times, some of the professionals are to be blamed because you don't qualify for the job. You've gone and lobby and they put you there. And it's paid bad time and you are now complaining. You can't complain. Now who got some? It's you. So if that is not the job you can do, please, it's better you don't go there. And some people are so much afraid that anything at all that they are told to do, they would like to do it because they want to protect their job. And I also want to say that Ghana Audit Service, I hope you are all aware that we were quite reluctant doing the disallowance and surcharge which I just talked about. Thanks to Occupy Ghana, they occupied our office by sending us to Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court gave consequential orders. And unfortunately for me, it was my predecessor who was sent to court, but by the time the judgment came, I was in the seat. So even though I agreed completely with the action or the decision of the court, it was still against me. So when I said I really welcome the decision, people didn't understand me. But I want to entreat you all to read the judgment when you have time. You see the wisdom that the judges have to espouse when they talked about the judgment. The good thing, Mr. Chairman, is today is that following our implementation of disallowance and surcharge, several African countries have adopted the same law. As we speak, Liberia has passed it, Sierra Leone has passed it, Zambia has passed it into law. The latest to join is South Africa 2 weeks ago. South Africa passed the law that the Auditor General should disallow and surcharge. Because we agreed when we met that the Auditor General should go a bit above the journalists. You report infractions. But the Auditor General should hold people accountable. Otherwise, we are taking your job. You don't want to be a journalist. You should be officers who protect the public purse. You can't say, I protect public purse and I have no mandate to do anything. I also want to say that under Article 286 of the Ghanaian Constitution, a selected number of people who are public servants at a certain level are supposed to declare their assets and their liabilities when assuming office or taking office every 4 years and when they are leaving office. This has been done from time immemorial, and the system has been that when you are appointed by His Excellency or you take an office which requires disclosure, you come to the Auditor General's end, you take a form, you fill it, you put it in an envelope, you seal it, and you come and submit it and say, I've declared my assets. I wonder what kind of declaration is this? Where you conceal whatever it is. But I ask my colleagues, if one day we should go to court, because the Constitution says that the court or Commissioner for Human Rights can ask for the asset declaration. We go to court and they open the envelope and it's newspapers which is inside. What shall we say? Somebody who has declared. So we are making changes. With immediate effect, we have stopped collecting envelopes which are sealed. When you bring it sealed, you tell to open it. And you bring an ID with your signature, which you use to authenticate that it is you who signed that document. I also want to announce that through the efforts of the IT guys in my office, we have developed a software which we have tested on staff. Well, we have used our staff for the testing, and we are happy to roll it out, say that the asset declaration will be done online. It will no more be paper, so that you can be in your house and you do the declaration. But you have to go through some steps. First and foremost, you will submit your data, you validate it to be sure that you are actually a government worker, and then we give you access to declare using the system. And we shall launch it very soon. Good. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to corruption, I have a suggestion for this country. I have spoken about the Office of the Special Prosecutor, which is more or less decentralizing the prosecution of corruption, which I really support. But I think that is not enough. My suggestion is that we should commercialize the prosecution of corruption in this country. That is, the law should allow, whether we amend the constitution or whatever we will do, but remember we are able to create the office of the special prosecutor without amending Article 88. So we should find the same way to allow private individuals to be able to prosecute corruption cases. Therefore, if I am the one to prosecute and you are my friend, so I won't prosecute you, someone can take you on. So nobody is safe. And if people can actually make living fighting corruption, I think the fight against corruption will be lawyers, accountants, etc., who are using their own pocket money to fight corruption. They are fighting for the nation. So if 10 million was stolen, which we would not have been able to retrieve, but by your efforts, you bring it back. If we give you 2 million, what is wrong with that? Because we are going to lose 10 million, and you brought back 10 million. So if you have brought back 10 million, we should be able to give you 2 million. And if Ghanaians know that this is done, I'm sure anytime the audit report comes, they will be scrambling, they will be fighting for it. Because they can pick from the audit report and start going. Because if we leave prosecution of corruption in the hands of few people, some people will always get away with it. But you don't know who is your enemy. So if we commercialize it, whereby individuals can take up the issue and go to court and collect the money and get their share, I'm sure people will do that. I also would like to submit that it is necessary in the public service we respect the laws of Ghana. Some corporate governance experts, like I alluded to earlier on, think there is one size which fits all. And some people also come into public service, especially government appointees, and they don't take time to read the laws. And when you are going to procurement side. But that is one thing which, please permit me, I respect His Excellency President Kufuor. When the Public Financial Management Act and the Procurement Act was passed, I remember, Chief, you were the Accountant General at that time. He was my then my boss. The President requested that the whole cabinet go into a retreat. Snacks is going to go. After snacks, he came and sat down. You see, this man has a lot of stamina. Okay, let's see after break, by all means, he will go. Lunchtime. He finished his lunch and came back. Hence, no minister could move. For once, we got the ministers there the whole day because their boss was there. And actually, some of them were pitching us. That, why do you invite the president? But I think it was a good thing. And I think we should learn first, because the rules and the principles we use in managing our companies is very different from what pertains in the public sector. Some of those things, if we don't do that, we shall always be going contrary to the law. And when the Auditor General says this is wrong, people will not like to take it. I also want to submit that let us start rewarding hard-working public servants so that others will also feel motivated to work hard, and let's desist from tarnishing people's reputation, especially because we have the benefit of radio or pen or newspaper. I cannot agree more with Professor Lumumba when he said, the tragedy of Africa is that Africans are in the business of canonizing thieves. Thieves are canonized in Africa. In Ghana is no exception. And demonizing its saints. Sometimes, he said, those times are many, wisdom demands that we remain silent. If you are wise, at times you just have to be silent. But, as for me, for the love of my country and God, I will not be silent. I will say it as it is. But someone has even promised that he's going to strip me naked. I don't know whether a Daily Guide has finished stripping me naked. Am I naked yet? Tell Daily Guide that I'm still having my clothes on. They should tell me the time frame by which they will finish, and I also start with them. So it is not just good because you have the advantage of media. You start going to town on people or on unfounded allegations. It's not just right. We must be factual and not to tarnish people's reputation just because I have the power of media. I must say that the Archbishop called Fulton Shine has this to say, and I'm very happy with the quote. I would like to quote him. He says, "The refusal to take sides on great moral issue is itself a decision." If you refuse and the wrong is going on, you have taken a decision. He says it is a silent acquiescence to evil. We are accepting evil quietly in our society. And he said the tragedy of our time is that those who still believe in honesty lack fire and conviction. Is that not true? And he said, while those who believe in dishonesty are full of passionate conviction, the evildoer is having a loud mouth than the good people. But I think the good people in Ghana, we far outnumber the evil ones. The problem is we are quiet, we won't talk. At times they are professionals. And I can see some in this room, very professional people. And our banks are failing because of we professionals. Meanwhile, we won't talk. One prepares the account through window dressing approach. The other one comes and says it's true and fair. Meanwhile, there is nothing there. True and fair financial statement. 6 months it collapses, and we are not holding them accountable. They still hold their heads high and call themselves professionals. Professionals with no dignity, with no honesty, with no integrity. We cannot we cannot continue tolerating such professionals. Mr. Chairman, I must say that if we are truly troubled by the unacceptable level of corruption that has bedeviled our society or country, and we really believe that it must stop, if we all believe that Ghana can work again and be a better place for us, then we all have a collective duty to educate, encourage, and enforce compliance with laws, rules, and regulations to protect our public funds and national interests. Professor Agyeman-Badu Akosa, a former Director General of Ghana Health Service, said, "We need to remain patriotic and commit ourselves to nation building by possessing values of discipline and good morals to help promote national unity and cohesion." He said there was also the need to reverse the Ghanaian attitude of no love for our country. We don't love our country. We hate our country. In fact, if there is a job to be done by a Ghanaian and we can pay him 5,000, we are happy paying 20,000 to a foreigner. Especially if your skin is light, then that one, with them, you are gone. You can take everything, you won't complain. But if it's a Ghanaian, you will see front pages. Front page, you put you there. I thought they say charity begins at home. But in this country, I think charity begins outside and comes home later, isn't it? So we need to love our country. And he said that, and I like to quote again, "Ghana is the only country we have, and God has a reason for not creating us as Europeans or Latinos." Thank you very much.